There is a doctor in Chicago making $380,000 a year. She drives a leased, late model BMW. Her kids attend a prestigious private school. Most weeknights, her family dines at upscale restaurants. Every single month, she writes a check for a $4,200 mortgage. On paper, she is wealthy, the absolute picture of success that society conditions us to strive for. But in reality, if an emergency struck right now, she could not come up with $5,000 in cash without selling an asset or swiping a credit card to take on more debt. This is not a hypothetical scenario meant to scare you. We are witnessing an illogical, yet incredibly widespread reality. According to recent macroeconomic reports from top Wall Street institutions, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 annually are living paycheck to paycheck. Shockingly, 40% of those earning over $500,000 report the exact same depletion. Run that math in your head. 4 out of every 10 people making $500,000 a year feel they have absolutely no financial cushion. They bring home more in a single month than many hardworking people accumulate in an entire year. Yet, every night, they experience the exact same paralyzing financial anxiety as someone earning a fraction of their salary. This picture completely contradicts the core belief that mainstream media and financial salespeople constantly drill into our heads: the assumption that income solves financial problems. The myth says that once you hit 6 figures, the stress evaporates. Cross $200,000 and you are secure. Pass $500,000 and money becomes irrelevant. But the hard data tells a much more ruthless story. And today, we are going to use mathematics to decode this entire illusion. The trap we are discussing is called the high-income poverty trap. People earn more, spend proportionately more, save the exact same percentage of nothing, and wake up at age 55 completely bewildered as to where all the massive wealth they generated over 3 decades actually went. This trap does not care about your gross income. It only cares about your retention rate. And let me be clear, we are not here to judge anyone's personal spending habits. If you are feeling suffocated despite a massive salary, I want you to understand that this is not entirely your fault. This mathematical shortfall stems from a structural flaw in the modern financial system, a model intricately designed to extract your wealth through algorithmic lifestyle, inflation, and consumer credit. Millions fall into this trap because they operate on a flawed equation, assuming high income automatically equals financial security. Recent research across multiple institutions reveals a staggering paradox. People earning $100,000 annually are actually more likely to report living paycheck to paycheck than those earning $50,000. Roughly 20% of households earning over $150,000 are allocating a massive 95% of their income just to cover necessities and debt service. These are not uneducated people who fail at basic arithmetic. On the contrary, they are often highly educated professionals surviving in demanding corporate environments. They understand compound interest and retirement shortfalls. But the financial system does not defeat them with arithmetic. It defeats them with psychology. When income spikes, a domino effect is triggered. A $15 lunch quietly morphs into a $25 lunch. The reliable Honda is swapped for a status-signaling BMW. The perfectly adequate apartment suddenly feels cramped and is abandoned for a house with a guest room that sits empty 11 months of the year. Each isolated upgrade feels entirely justified. You worked grueling hours, you earned it, and technically, your current cash flow can cover the monthly payment. Social media algorithms and targeted advertising systems relentlessly reinforce this behavior, constantly displaying the curated lifestyles of your income peers. But here is the lethal design of the system. These upgraded expenses automatically compound, creating negative interest, while your actual savings rate remains flat or plummets. And once luxury becomes the new baseline, cutting back no longer feels like a rational budgeting decision. It feels like deprivation, a public admission of failure. To truly understand how credit institutions profit from this psychological trap, we need to peel back the hidden data that banks desperately want to keep out of the spotlight. The top 20% of earners currently hold 35% of all credit card debt in the United States. At first glance, this makes zero sense. Why would the people with the most cash flow carry the most expensive debt? The answer lies in the fundamental difference in how credit is deployed. Lower-income households use credit for survival, financing essential goods, because the cash simply runs out before the month does. But high-income households use credit to maintain an illusion. They are financing a highly leveraged lifestyle that technically fits their current income, but leaves absolutely zero margin of safety for macroeconomic shocks. When you earn $50,000, your housing cost is naturally constrained by what a rational landlord will approve. But when you earn $300,000, the banking system smiles and underwrites a massive mortgage that stretches your budget just as thin, only with exponentially larger numbers. A family making $80,000 might spend $2,000 monthly on housing. A family making $300,000 might spend $8,000. Both families are throwing an identical percentage of their income into shelter. Both feel equally constrained. But the high-income family owns much more expensive problems, and crucially, they have lost all structural flexibility. Private school tuitions, multiple luxury car leases, carrying costs for a vacation home, premium country club memberships. These are not frivolous expenses in the traditional sense. Structurally, once established, they function exactly like unbreakable fixed costs. Pulling a child out of an elite private school triggers immense parental guilt. Listing the vacation home for sale feels like an empire collapsing. Downgrading vehicles is perceived as a public declaration of financial distress. The trap tightens precisely because this lifestyle is so agonizingly difficult to reverse. Macroeconomic data shows the personal savings rate in the US persistently oscillating around a mere 3 to 4% during normal economic periods. The terrifying part is that this pattern holds true across virtually all income brackets. Someone earning $75,000 who saves 4% accumulates $3,000 annually. Someone earning $300,000 saving the same 4% accumulates $12,000. The high earner is saving 4 times as much in absolute dollars, but relative to their astronomical lifestyle burn rate, they are just as vulnerable to bankruptcy in the event of a sudden job loss as the lower-income worker. So, what are the people who actually accumulate lasting wealth doing differently? The classic research from The Millionaire Next Door shattered conventional wisdom, proving that actual millionaires rarely look like millionaires. They live in middle-class neighborhoods, drive older, fully owned vehicles, and almost never broadcast their net worth. Nearly 80% of millionaires are self-made, receiving zero inheritance. Only 31% of them ever averaged a 6-figure salary throughout their entire careers. Warren Buffett still lives in the exact same house he purchased in 1958 for just over $31,000. This reveals one of the most fascinating paradoxes in behavioral economics. The people who are actively accumulating wealth behave nothing like the people who are merely appearing wealthy. The doctor driving the leased BMW projects a much wealthier image than the plumber driving a 10-year-old truck. But that plumber is sitting on a $2 million investment portfolio. Whether you are a prodigious accumulator of wealth or an under-accumulator of wealth is dictated entirely by your spending infrastructure, not your gross income. To break free from this systemic trap, we need actionable defensive investment strategies, grounded in cold mathematics rather than social emotion. The first strategy is the absolute percentage automation rule. Stop repeating the mainstream mistake of saving whatever happens to be left over after spending. You must invert the equation. Spend whatever is left over after aggressively saving. If an individual earning $400,000 automatically diverts $120,000 annually straight into index funds or cash-flowing assets, they will build a fortress of wealth, regardless of how they burn the remaining $280,000. Look at the raw math. If you earn $300,000 and maintain a 30% savings rate, you retain $90,000 annually. Assuming a conservative 7% average market return over 20 years, that capital explodes into roughly $4 million. Conversely, if you earn that same $300,000 but save only 5%, you retain $15,000 annually. Using the exact same returns and timeline, you end up with a mere $650,000. That staggering difference of $3.35 million is the literal cash price you pay for surrendering to lifestyle inflation over 2 decades. The second strategy is executing a ruthless fixed cost audit. Reversing this paradigm requires you to mathematically audit every single recurring expense and honestly ask if it delivers utility proportionate to its true cost. Usually, the answer is no. Excess square footage that remains unoccupied. High-performance vehicles driven in stop-and-go traffic. Memberships that exist solely to signal status rather than provide actual utility. Optimizing for lifestyle means maximizing current consumption while destroying future freedom. Optimizing for wealth means accepting disciplined constraints today in exchange for infinite optionality tomorrow. High income does not, and never will, automatically solve financial problems. Only intentional decisions, driven by strict mathematical rules regarding what percentage of your capital you retain, can build a genuine financial fortress. The high-income poverty trap is very real, but breaking it is entirely possible if you have the courage to admit that earning more money was never the final answer. The real question is, what is one fixed cost in your life right now that initially felt like a well-deserved upgrade, but looking back, you realize is actually a structural financial trap? Share your thoughts and your numbers in the comments below so we can analyze them together. And make sure you subscribe to the channel right now so we can continue calculating the real numbers behind the macroeconomic curtain